Elon Musk revela el incidente se hay con el blanco Millionaire speechless antes de Donald Trump. La sala fue eléctrica. Célebros levantados, ojos los largos, mentías, yuacas al micrófono por Elon Musk. Pero nadie se esperaba lo que vino después. Musk, usualmente bien atenido como hielo, trafó esa sonrisa grande y este cacodimoni ha subiado al micrófono para adelantarse el futuro del mundo, de maneras nadie, incluyendo. Just there, en el corazón de Silicon Valley, el aire se quedó como una tormenta lista para reventar. Pensando, se cayó la cera de la gente. Jordan Ellis, el inversionista negro sentado al frente, se vio apenas se contenía. Su voz fue sonante crisp y mantiene así. El grito de la gente cae mal. ¿O por qué no? Gritó. Aires escaneando como joque en estorma. Dawson's reputation for tearing apart progressive moves was no secret. And everyone felt the pulse quicken. Alex Mercer, the entrepreneur at the center of the storm, took a deep breath. His announcement was about to shock even the calmest skeptics. A partnership with Jordan Ellis, a man whose millions rose from fighting battles most don't even talk about. Jordan's story? Pain soaked in resilience, a lifetime shadowed by struggle. Kicked at by racism and social walls most couldn't break. Together, they promised a future not just about innovation, but change, real change. The crowd leaned in, electric with hope and doubt. Then Dawson stepped forward, voice dripping with venom, challenging every word, ripping through the atmosphere like a jagged knife. People gasped again, some out loud, some frozen, others murmuring in disbelief. Jordan's eyes burned with a tangled fire. Pride, fear, anger, and something raw. Pain from rumors, fast and vicious. Something about Jordan and Dawson's past. A financial scandal? A secret link between two men locked on opposite sides of history. Alex's smile faltered. The weight pressed heavier on his chest, his hands trembling just beneath the polished table. The stakes weren't just business anymore. This was personal. Dangerous. Some in the crowd shifted uneasily, faces caught between hope and suspicion. A woman near the back whispered, "What's really going on?" A man nodded sharply, eyes darting toward Dawson and Jordan, their tension spilling into the room like a storm cloud ready to burst. Jordan's pulse thudded unevenly. The bright lights and applauses felt like a cage, trapping him with expectations and ghosts. The community he carried on his shoulders screamed for recognition, but beneath his calm surface, the storm roared. And then, silence hit again. A pause so thick, it smothered the room. The question hung like smoke. Who's hiding the truth? And what will happen when it breaks? This wasn't just a conference. It was a battlefield. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact! The silence was deafening. The tension hung thick like fog. Every eye fixated on Jordan and Dawson. No one dared to breathe. Then, without warning, the lights flickered overhead. Murmurs surged through the crowd. Something was off. People exchanged worried glances, their earlier excitement replaced by unease. Elon, still at the mic, looked puzzled. The rare smile faded, replaced by an expression of concern. "What's happening?" he asked, stepping back, the confidence in his demeanor wavering. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room. A figure burst in through the doors, wild-eyed, disheveled. It was Samuel, the tech journalist known for his button-pushing exposés. Sweat dripped from his brow as he gasped for breath, half lurching into the spotlight. "Elon! Everyone!" he shouted, voice trembling. "You need to see this now!" Gasps rippled through the audience. What could possibly make Samuel break into such a high-profile event like this? "Is this a joke?" Dawson sneered, stepping forward, ready to dismiss Samuel. Jordan clenched his fists, heart racing. But the journalist wasn't done. "No, listen, I found something. A hidden database linked to the underground tech communities Elon clued you all into. It links everyone in this room." His words hung heavy in the air. The crowd slackened, confusion morphing into dread. "What do you mean, everyone?" Jordan's voice shook, anxiety coiling in his gut. "It's not just tech," Samuel continued. "It's money, influence, politicians, investors. There are names in the database, all involved in something much darker." Tension buzzed. Every ear leaned in, every heartbeat quickened. Dawson's facade cracked. "What kind of darker?" he snapped. Samuel met his gaze. "You connected multiple projects, surgeries, all under the guise of legitimate investments. The kind of projects that were meant to help, but profited from pain and suffering. Hidden echo chambers fueled by racism, exploitation. Jordan, you have to see this." Shock washed over the room. Jordan felt his heart drop. He'd battled every instinct to believe his rise was justified, to know he'd earned something real. But now, that foundation crumbled, a shaky tower falling to the ground. "No!" he yelled, shaking his head as sadness morphed into anger. "This can't be true. I've never—" The crowd erupted. Some people cried out in disbelief. Others sucked in breath, their eyes darting between bold claims and their own fears. Elon's brow furrowed as he processed the twist. "Show it to us," he demanded. "Let everyone see." Samuel's hands trembled as he produced a tablet, the screen glowing ominously. He hurriedly maneuvered through a series of reports. "Look! These names, actors of manipulation, and the interconnections. It's all right here!" People squinted, their curiosity piqued, but uncertainty flooded the room. Betrayal hovered unseen, like a predator in the shadows. "What now?" someone whispered at the back. "Do we trust this? Or him?" Dawson's stern demeanor returned. He turned to face Jordan. "You better explain yourself. This could ruin everything." Caught between the past and the growing storm, Jordan felt the weight of lost dreams crushing down on him. The air felt electric, charged with fear and anger that Samuel's words sank deeper into their core. Trust that had taken years to build started to melt away. The question of who was telling the truth hung like a blade, ready to drop. The revelation rumbled through the crowd like distant thunder, the stakes higher than ever. As they watched, breaths held, reality began to shatter around them. What would they find beneath the surface? This was no longer just a conference. It was a battle for truth, a battle for souls, and now everything was on the line. The silence clung heavy, stifling, like a thick fog settling in. The crowd held its collective breath, the tension so thick you could almost taste it. Then, without warning, the lights flickered, the screens glitching like an old movie reel. A gasp rolled through the audience, followed by a disorienting flash of static. And just like that, the unexpected happened. A figure appeared on the screen. It was a grainy video, but recognizable. It was a younger Jordan Ellis, almost unrecognizable, speaking to a group of people around a table. Voices echoed, anger rising, accusing. The words sprang out like daggers. Money laundering, funneling cash, blackmail. The room erupted. It felt like a bomb had dropped. Jordan's face turned pale. The pride he held just moments ago dashed away. People around him started to murmur, uncertainty growing in their eyes. Was he really involved in something so sinister? Elon, standing in shock, hardly believed what he was seeing. The once calm investor was now drowned in suspicion. Jordan's back straightened, eyes blazing with fury. A mixture of shame and rage twisted his features. "This is fake!" he yelled, voice trembling yet fierce. Desperation laced through every syllable. "I'd never! I'm a fighter against this corruption!" But doubt had already spread like wildfire. People turned to each other, questions bubbling over, glances full of fear and confusion. Then the screen showed more footage. Another man, shadowy, but terrifyingly familiar. Alex Mercer's face twisted, heart sinking. It was Mark Dawson, his voice slithering through the speakers. "Let's bring the truth to light, shall we?" Time froze. It felt like the world toppled on its axis. What did Dawson know? Who had been pulling the strings? Suddenly, a woman burst into the room, breathless and wild-eyed. "Stop! They're lying!" she cried, scrambling towards the stage as if trying to shield Jordan. A racing heartbeat echoed in the sudden silence. "I have proof. I have everything. Those videos, they're manipulated." Dawson's stare turned cold, calculating. "Who are you to interfere?" But the woman didn't back down. "You don't get to destroy lives for your own gain. This is about more than just money." Jordan seized the moment. "Tell us what you know," he pleaded, desperation clawing at his voice. This was his chance, perhaps a slim one, to clear his name. The murmurs grew louder, turning into a storm. Accusations and questions swirling like a cyclone. A sea of faces filled with confusion, anger, hope, and fear. Elon stood frozen, the gears in his mind racing, trying to piece together a puzzle that now seemed impossible. What kind of world had he stepped into? Secrets wrapped in mysteries, relationships shifting, alliances faltering in an instant. Jordan's eyes darted to the crowd, feeling the weight of every gaze. The expectations were suffocating, a wall pressing in on him from all sides. He was fighting for his life, and now it seemed like he had more enemies than allies. In that charged moment, the room felt unsteady, as if the very foundations were crumbling away. The urgency electrified the air. What was next? Who was telling the truth and who was deceitful? As the crowd buzzed and the woman stepped closer to the microphone, all eyes locked on her, anticipation mounting, waiting for her to change everything. The woman stood there, pulse racing, breathless, her eyes glinting with a fierce determination. "Listen, you need to know." But before she could finish, a sudden, blaring alarm shattered the thick tension, making everyone jump. The lights flickered wildly, casting eerie shadows around the room. Just then, the doors at the back burst open again. Another figure stumbled in. But this time, it was Frank, the well-known tech whistleblower. His face was smeared with dirt, eyes wild with fear. Panting heavily, he yelled, "They're coming! We're not safe here!" Gasps erupted, panic flooding the audience. What on earth was happening? The atmosphere turned electric, everyone darting glances, confusion morphing into visceral fear. Jordan's heart raced. "What do you mean? Who's coming?" Frank, chest heaving, pointed towards the wall, where an ominous digital countdown now flickered to life. "They're tracking everything. They've tapped into the network. They'll expose all of us if we don't move fast." The room erupted into chaos. People shouted, while others scrambled for their phones, desperately trying to make calls, sending frantic messages. The whispers grew louder, icy fear coiling around their hearts. "This is madness!" someone shouted. Elon stepped forward, trying to regain control. "Everyone, listen! We need to stay calm!" But his voice was lost in the rising tide of panic. "Shut up, Elon!" screamed a woman in the crowd, her face a mask of hysteria. "Is this your plan? To ruin us?" Frank turned to the woman, eyes wild. "It's not just about him. This is bigger than us, bigger than any of you realized." The countdown continued ticking down, each tick echoing like a heartbeat that quickened the pulse of the room. As time slipped away, tension mounted. Each second felt like a weight lifting, followed by a hard drop. Jordan's eyes darted around, searching for answers. "Someone has answers!" he screamed, but the sound drowned in the noise. Suddenly the screen crackled and shifted, displaying names and blurry faces, links connecting them all in a sprawling web of deceit. The room froze. Everyone stopped, eyes glued to the screen, plastered with secrets, scandals, connections that felt utterly alien. Gasps of disbelief filled the air. The first name flashed. It wasn't just anyone. It was Jordan's. He stammered, shock ripping through him. "No, this is wrong!" But as he blinked, more names appeared. Faces he recognized, but never thought to connect in this web of chaos. Family, friends, colleagues. Their lives tangled among the dark threads of money and corruption. Frank shouted, "This isn't just a tech issue anymore, it's everything! You think you're safe? But look!" He pointed at Dawson. "You think he's your ally? He's been playing you all. None of you can truly trust anyone now." Every eye turned to Dawson, betrayal simmering in the air. He could only scowl as insults flew, doubt hardening into a heavy weight that bore down on him. But the real twist came when the lights flickered and the countdown hit 1. The screen exploded into static, and in the chaos of broken sound, a piercing siren surged through the room. Everywhere, phone screens lit up, images flashing of faces they barely recognize but felt uneasy about. "Who set this up?" Jordan shouted over the noise, desperation clawing at his throat. And then, in an instant, the chaotic scene shifted. The woman, the one who had tried to protect him, was suddenly gone, swept away in the confusion. The lights flashed, revealing a hidden door slipping shut behind her, taking all her secrets with her. "What just happened?" one voice cried out, confusion rippling through the crowd. Questions hung heavy in the air, desperation mixed with dread. What was happening? Who was truly behind this? Jordan felt the walls closing in, heart racing. It was far from over. The night was just beginning, and everything had changed. Everything. The silence was unbelievable. Everyone held their breath. Ha 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 ha! Elon's words still hung in the air, a heavy weight. Jordan felt the room shift, the heat rise, as all eyes glued to him, waiting for a response. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His heart hammered, every beat a reminder of the moment. Just then, a young woman, bold and fierce, jumped up from the back of the room. "Enough!" she shouted, voice slicing through the tension. It was Maya, Alex's partner, a tech whiz with a reputation for breaking norms. Her hair glowed under the lights, and her eyes were fierce, blazing with determination. "We're not just standing here for entertainment. This is about truth." The crowd buzzed, murmurs rippling like a wave. Shock spread through the faces gathered, everyone trying to process the sudden shift. Jordan felt a rush of relief mixed with confusion. She was right, but was this the right time? Your truths, your power? It's all a game until someone gets hurt. Maya's voice was steady, piercing the confusion. People leaned in, eager, torn between curiosity and concern. Why hide from the past? Why pretend? Jordan felt heat creep up his neck. What was she talking about? Then it hit him. His past. The battles he fought, the truths buried in pain, were naked under that spotlight. He wanted to shout back, to defend himself, but the words felt trapped. Suddenly, the screen flashed again. A photo appeared, blurry but recognizable. It showed a younger Jordan, different clothes, different world. Beside him stood Mark Dawson. The gasps were sharp, cutting through the air like blades. "What is this?" someone yelled, breaking the stunned silence. Jordan's heart sank, dread pooling in his stomach. His mind raced. How did they get that? What did it mean? True bonds, secret deals. Maya pressed on, drenched in fervor. Are you really fighting for change? Or just playing your part in someone else's show? Her eyes were fierce, daring him to respond. Then, like a flood, Dawson sprang into action, anger rushing to his face. That was years ago. We were young, stupid. That doesn't matter now. But his stutter only fueled the crowd's curiosity. The whispers grew louder, rattling through the room like thunder, echoing doubts and questions hanging thick in the air. Jordan swallowed hard, feeling sweat trickle down his back. He shot a look at Alex, who appeared frozen, caught between shock and confusion. Somehow, it felt like a betrayal, like the ground was crumbling beneath him. "Tell us who you really are, Jordan." Maya's voice rang out, sharp and clear. The heat of those words was a spotlight, exposing everything. "Are you here for them, or just for yourself?" And then a sudden commotion. A loud crash came from the side, and the crowd turned. Someone had fallen. Chaos erupted. People shifted in shock. Breathless, Jordan's heart raced. The tension exploded, confusion mixing with fear. Crowds scattered, eyes darting, but Jordan stood still, rooted to the floor. Every sense honed in on the chaos. What was happening? Did he really know what his next move would be? In the heart of uncertainty, Jordan realized everything he believed, every choice he made, was now up in the air. The truth buried beneath layers of lies and expectations, waiting for someone to uncover it. The chaos swirled, but one question remained. A small device, barely noticed until now, exploded in a shower of sparks, filling the room with thick smoke and panic. People screamed, the crowd surged, chairs toppled as bodies scrambled for safety. But in that chaos, Jordan caught a glimpse of something, a figure darting through the confusion. It was Alex, the entrepreneur, moving with a wild energy that moved him faster than he had seen before. His eyes were wide, and something was off. Jordan's heart raced, not just from the fright, but from recognition. What was happening? Alex reached the center stage, lifting a small object over his head, a flash drive. His voice, shaky but loud, cut through the din. "I'm sorry, I didn't want it to come to this, but we need to face the truth." Gasps erupted all around. Dawson's face turned ashen, and he stepped back as if the truth was toxic. The whispers grew louder. What was on that drive? Was it proof? A scandal? Suddenly, those standing closest to Alex felt the ground shift beneath them. A weight of history, secrets, and bitter realities wrapped in that tiny piece of tech. Jordan's head spun. This wasn't just a tech conference anymore. It felt like some kind of reckoning. Dawson looked enraged, stepping forward, but fear clouded his eyes now. "You don't want to do this, Alex," he shouted, desperation tightening his voice. But Alex stood firm, defiance radiating from him, sweat running down his face. "People need to know. They deserve to see who you really are." The crowd was caught in a whirlwind, part terror, part exhilaration, all eyes darting between the stage and the raging figure of Mark Dawson. His stance shifted. That hardened exterior cracked. Was it fear or guilt? The audience felt it, that change of heart slipping through like a whisper. Some shouted for calm. Others leaned in, hanging on every word now. They needed the story, the truth wrapped up in so many layers. Yet, in this firestorm of emotions, a chilling realization hit Jordan. He remembered the quiet looks exchanged between Dawson and Alex before. Those weren't just casual glances. They held a history. A deeper connection that felt dark and dangerous. "Jordan," Dawson hissed, glancing at him. "A plea wrapped in a threat. Don't get involved. There are things you don't understand." Those words rang like a tolling bell, echoing in Jordan's mind. What did Dawson know? What had Alex unearthed? The crowd began murmuring, confusion twisting the air once more, 100 suspicions crackling like electricity. In that narrow space, a new battle was being drawn. Friendships were on the line. Trust was melting like ice under a blazing sun. Jordan felt a knot in his stomach, realizing he stood on the precipice of something massive. Then, just as the chaos quieted, Alex dropped the drive onto the table, the weight of it thudding loud and heavy. Time seemed to stretch out, and for a heartbeat, all eyes were glued to that small device. What would they find? What truths laid beneath the surface? What impact would this have on the fragile alliances forming? Jordan's heart thudded. He was caught in a storm of uncertainty, and he had one question ripping through him. Was this a chance for change? Or the beginning of something much darker? The truth was closing in like an ominous shadow. And he felt like he had just stepped onto a battlefield. As the silence smothered the room, a thick tension wrapped around the crowd. Every eye was glued to the stage, minds racing with unvoiced questions. What truths lay buried beneath the surface of this bubbling storm? The weight of the moment pressed on Jordan's chest like an anvil. Then, without warning, the air shattered. A chilling shriek sliced through the tension, echoing off the walls. It came from the back of the room. The crowd spun toward the source, hearts racing. Cameras pivoted, capturing the unthinkable. A woman stumbled into view, wild-eyed and panicked, her voice breaking. "They're here! They know!" A deep gasp rippled through the crowd. Jordan felt the blood drain from his face. Was it a threat? A warning? People shifted in their seats, eyes darting. Musk's expression turned grave as he took in the scene, any coolness slipping away. Who knows what? Oh, but the woman wasn't listening. Her eyes were wide as saucers, losing focus as if seeing something far beyond what anyone in the room could comprehend. "I've been watching for days. They're watching us all." She clutched her hands to her chest, shaking. "I never wanted to get involved. I just thought," her voice cracked, "but they have dirt on all of us. We'd rather die than expose." The whispers intensified, chaos sparking anew. Someone in the crowd shouted, "What do you mean? Who's they?" The questions mingled with fear and curiosity, confusion overwhelming reason. Jordan's heart hammered. He looked at Alex, whose expression mirrored his own dread. Just moments before, they were marching into a new future, and now the ground felt like it was slipping from under them. Dawson sneered, eyes cold. "This is a joke, a distraction from the real issues at hand." But Jordan, suddenly aware of the stakes, spoke up, voice steady despite the turmoil. "What do you know?" His words cut through the noise, demanding answers he already feared. The woman stepped closer to the stage. "There's something connecting us all. You, him, all of us." She gasped for breath, the gravity of her knowledge weaving through the crowd. "People's lives hang in the balance, and I can prove it." The room fell silent again. The intensity of her words hung heavy in the air. Musk leaned forward, captivated. Dawson scoffed, but even he seemed momentarily shaken. The crowd was now a sea of wide eyes and racing hearts. What was the connection? What secrets lay in the shadows? Jordan felt a tremor run through him. This was no longer just about tech or business. It was a minefield of untold stories, deep-rooted conflicts, and hidden alliances. As the woman trembled, he noticed something glinting in her pocket. The flash drive? Was it the key to everything? His heart skipped a beat. Then, without warning, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps, screams, confusion. An air of panic built like a tidal wave. Jordan's thoughts spun. Was it an accident or something deliberate? In the midst of the chaos, flickers of a spotlight illuminated Musk, his intense gaze piercing through the sudden darkness. "Stay calm. We'll get to the bottom of this." His voice became a beacon amid the storm. But who could they trust now? And what truths lurked in the shadows? As people jostled and murmured, the question hung heavy. What terrible secrets were about to unfold? And how would it change everything they thought they knew? Just as the darkness began to lift, a voice echoed in the background, a voice everyone recognized. This is just the beginning. The crowd froze, each person grasping for understanding amid the rising tide of dread. What lay ahead? Whatever it was, it promised to pull at the very fabric of their lives, leaving the future a hazy mystery, teetering on the brink of revelation. Just as the woman's voice echoed ominously in the air, a jarring interruption cut through the chaos. The lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into a momentary pitch darkness, and then blared back on, revealing the chaos unfolding. Screams mixed with confusion. In that electric stillness, a figure emerged at the far end of the room. A shadowy silhouette, slightly hunched, making its way through the throngs of stunned faces. Panic rippled through the crowd. "What now?" someone shouted, and then it happened. The figure stepped into the light. It was a woman. Someone they hadn't anticipated. She looked frail, clothes torn and hair tangled. But her eyes, those piercing eyes, burned with intensity. "Stop this! You're all in grave danger!" Gasps filled the air again, but this time horror danced across faces. Jordan glanced at Alex, confusion etching deeper into their relationship. Who was this woman? And why was she so insistent? But before anyone could process it, the woman, her voice trembling yet determined, pointed at the stage, locking eyes with Elon. "You think you're in control of this situation? You have no idea what you've unleashed." Surges of questions flew through the audience. Who was she to challenge Elon Musk? Statements pushed back from every corner. But the woman pressed on, raising her voice above the rising tide of whispers. "They're coming for all of you, the ones you think are your allies. They've been watching. They know everything." Dawson stepped forward, brow furrowed in anger, his composure fracturing. "Who the hell are you? You're just wasting everyone's time." Yet the woman remained unflinching. "You've put your faith in the wrong people, Mark. They're not what they seem, and you're the next target." Suddenly, a hand shot forward from the back, clutching a sleek black tablet. It was Frank. "Everyone, listen! She's right." His voice boomed, shaking the foundations. "I've connected dots. I thought it was a different project, but it's so much darker. They're playing us all, like pawns in a game. Unsettled murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jordan could feel his heart pounding, the realization washing over him like a wave, cold and sharp. "Enough!" Dawson barked, veins tightening. He gestured dismissively, but the tension was now skyrocketing. The crowd shifted uneasily, contemplante la gravedad de Frank's exclamación. Then it happened. A second blaring alarm pierced the heavy atmosphere, making everyone jump. The screens flashed once more, and a live feed materialized, revealing a dimly lit room filled with computer screens, network connections racing with data. And there, at the center, was someone shocking. Maya! The crowd gasped. She appeared calm, yet her eyes flickered with a secret. "What are you doing, Maya?" Jordan shouted, heart throbbing wildly. "Jordan," she said, voice steady, yet tinged with something deeper. "I've been working on this for a while. The real truth." Her words started unraveling in waves. "I had to bring this to light. You deserve to know." But as she spoke, her body tensed, and suddenly the feed cut out. The room plunged back into half-darkness. A figure slinked into view behind her. A shadowy, familiar shape. Mark Dawson. Time froze. "No!" Jordan yelled, rushing forward, panic lacing through every fiber of his being. "Maya! Don't!" But Dawson was faster. He lunged and everything collided in chaos. A scream pierced the tension, followed by silence. Then the feed blinked back to life, showing only Maya, collapsed and still. A gasp erupted, disbelief hung heavy in the air. Dawson had crossed a line that shuddered through the hearts of everyone present. "What did you do?" someone shouted, voice breaking. But Jordan felt the ground beneath him disintegrate. Suddenly, in that dreadful stillness, revelations crashed in waves. Was everything a lie? Was this a game, and were they all just players, unaware of the true stakes? Relationships cracked, alliances fractured, like glass shattering in slow motion. Jordan could barely think. Bah! The world spun off its axis, and he grasped at the fraying threads. Who was telling the truth? What had been revealed, and what had been hidden? In a moment that felt like an eternity, the reality of it all hit him like a freight train. This was no longer just a conference. No, it was war. Where would they go from here? What other secrets lay buried? The sound of dread filled the silence, lingering in the air. A mystery, an imminent threat. It felt like everything had changed, and where it would lead, no one knew. The silence was unbelievable. Everyone held their breath. Elon's words still hung in the air, a heavy weight. Jordan felt the room shift, the heat rise as all eyes glued to him, waiting for a response. He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. His heart hammered, every beat a reminder of the moment. Then, without warning, the air shattered. A chilling shriek sliced through the tension, echoing off the walls. It came from the back of the room. The crowd spun toward the source, hearts racing. Cameras pivoted, capturing the unthinkable. A woman stumbled into view, wild-eyed and panicked, her voice breaking. "They're here! They know!" A deep gasp rippled through the crowd. Jordan felt the blood drain from his face. Was it a threat? A warning? People shifted in their seats, eyes darting. Musk's expression turned grave as he took in the scene, any coolness slipping away. Who knows what? But the woman wasn't listening. Her eyes were wide as saucers, losing focus, as if seeing something far beyond what anyone in the room could comprehend. I've been watching for days. They're watching us all. She clutched her hands to her chest, shaking. I never wanted to get involved. I just thought, her voice cracked. But they have dirt on all of us. Secrets we'd rather die than expose. The whispers intensified, chaos sparking anew. Someone in the crowd shouted, "What do you mean? Who's they?" The questions mingled with fear and curiosity, confusion overwhelming reason. Jordan's heart raced. He looked at Alex, whose expression mirrored his own dread. Just moments before, they were marching into a new future. And now the ground felt like it was slipping from under them. Dawson sneered, eyes cold. This is a joke, a distraction from the real issues at hand. But Jordan, suddenly aware of the stakes, spoke up, voice steady despite the turmoil. What do you know? His words cut through the noise, demanding answers he already feared. The woman stepped closer to the stage. There's something connecting us all. You, him, all of us. She gasped for breath, the gravity of her knowledge weaving through the crowd. People's lives hang in the balance, and I can prove it. The room fell silent again. The intensity of her words hung heavy in the air. Musk leaned forward, captivated. Dawson scoffed, but even he seemed momentarily shaken. The crowd was now a sea of wide eyes and racing hearts. What was the connection? What secrets lay in the shadows? Jordan felt a tremor run through him. This was no longer just about tech or business. It was a minefield of untold stories, deep-rooted conflicts, and hidden alliances. As the woman trembled, he noticed something glinting in her pocket. A flash drive? Was it the key to everything? His heart skipped a beat. Then, without warning, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Gasps, screams, confusion, an air of panic built like a tidal wave. Jordan's thoughts spun. Was it an accident? Or something deliberate? In the midst of the chaos, flickers of a spotlight illuminated Musk, his intense gaze piercing through the sudden darkness. Stay calm. We'll get to the bottom of this. His voice became a beacon amid the storm. But who could they trust now? And what truths lurked in the shadows? As people jostled and murmured, the question hung heavy. What terrible secrets were about to unfold? And how would it change everything they thought they knew? Just as the darkness began to lift, a voice echoed in the background. A voice everyone recognized. This is just the beginning. The crowd froze, each person grasping for understanding amid the rising tide of dread. What lay ahead? Whatever it was, it promised to pull at the very fabric of their lives, leaving the future a hazy mystery, teetering on the brink of revelation. Then, a sudden loud bang tore through the silence, more explosive than thunder. A flash had detonated somewhere in the room. Smoke began to swirl, filling the air. Confusion erupted into chaos. Bodies crashed into one another as they scrambled for safety, screams ringing off the walls. From the haze, Dawson's face twisted in panic as he shouted, "Get down! Everyone get down!" His authority cracked, all trace of calmness evaporating. Jordan barely had time to comprehend. He dove to the floor, heart racing, adrenaline surging through him like fire. He spotted Alex beside him, eyes wide in disbelief. What's happening? As the smoke thickened, the crowd moved like a wave. The whispers turned frantic. Is it an attack? Are we safe? Then, through the chaos, someone stepped forward, a silhouette emerging. It was the woman again, but she was no longer trembling, no longer afraid. Her eyes glinted with determination. In her hands, she lifted the flash drive high, illuminating the faces, frozen in fear. I know the truth, she shouted, her voice cutting through the madness. And I'm about to expose everything. Jordan felt something shift, a knot twisted in his stomach. What was she really holding? An answer to everything? Or a final blow? He couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a revelation. It was a reckoning. Then, with a shattering snap, the power surged back. The lights flared back to life, revealing the chaos anew. The woman stood firm, fire in her eyes as the crowd gasped. There was a sudden clarity that wrapped around them. But the twist came next. As the lights steadied, the camera feed flickered back on, showing a split screen of faces, all familiar. Those they once thought allies stood there, shrouded in shadows. Faces that filled the screen, eyes calculating. Including Mark Dawson's. Jordan's breath caught in his throat. It was all connected. Everything they built was just a facade, and the truth was deeper than anyone realized. But Dawson let out a shaky exhale, his secrets laid bare. Jordan's stomach dropped. In that moment, trust shattered, lives unraveled. They weren't just at a tech conference. They were caught in a web of deception so complex it wound around every single one of them. What would this revelation mean for each of them? Everything was on the line, and with each heartbeat the crowd braced for an explosion, one that could change everything. What lay ahead was a mystery, and every question they had now felt heavier than ever. The room buzzed with chaos. The flashing lights illuminated more than just faces. They revealed fear, suspicion, and a flicker of something else. A glimmer of truth. Jordan found his breath, pushing through the disbelief to face Alex. What now? He asked, urgency pressing into his chest like a weight. The woman held the flash drive tightly, hands trembling, yet the fire in her eyes burned fiercely. We expose everything, no more hiding, she declared, her voice breaking through the tension like sunlight through clouds. Across the room, Dawson's expression twisted, a blend of anger and fear. You're making a mistake, he yelled, but the crowd was no longer his. They were fed up with the games. The deception, everyone could feel it. Jordan felt the energy shift. The audience, once cautious, now leaned forward, hungry for revelation. Whispers turned into a roar as someone shouted, "Let's see what's on that drive!" Nervously, the woman connected the flash drive to the nearby screen. Silence wrapped around them, a tight blanket of anticipation. Then the screen lit up, revealing a flood of documents, names, contracts, connections. Each name buzzed with implications, each document a thread leading to someone's hidden truth. Gasps echoed through the audience. Jordan's heart raced as he recognized the letters, the names of people he knew intimately, allies turned adversaries. He clenched his fists, anger boiling to the surface. "Stop! This isn't what you think!" Dawson shouted, desperation leaking into his voice. But the room had transformed. No one was listening to him anymore. Pieces of the puzzle clicked together as the audience began to sift through the truth. Secrets spilled into the open, leaving sharp edges that cut deep. "You've betrayed us!" someone yelled, pointing at Dawson. "You used us!" The faces around Jordan turned dark. Suspicion etched into each one. Fear twisted in his gut. Could they still be allies? Or would this divide them forever? As Dawson stepped back, it felt like the ground beneath him cracked. "No, I can explain!" But the crowd wasn't ready for clarity. They needed answers. Trust was a battlefield now, lost in the conflict. And then, just when everything felt like it might shatter, the woman turned to the crowd, voice steady. "We can stand together. We can fight back against those pulling the strings," she urged, her conviction cutting through their anger. A flicker of hope ignited, lighting up the faces around him. Jordan felt the tightness in his chest fade a bit. Somehow, together, they could build something real, something strong. "Are you ready?" she called out, eyes sweeping the sea of faces ahead. "This is our chance!" A roar of agreement surged, shaking the walls. They stood unified, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. The tension shifted again as Ellen, that once familiar face, emerged in the crowd. Determination etched across her features. "We will not be victimized any longer," she proclaimed, rallying the crowd further. They took a step forward, a wave of solidarity surging behind them. Jordan le da una vez que no sabía que se sentía. ¿Qué tal podrían regresar sus futuros? Pero en ese momento de claridad aún murmuraba la duda. ¿Será que les persigue con toda velocidad? Entonces a la multitud empezó a echar y algo eléctrico farpante por el aire. Las luces del piso les disminuyen y el bajo humo final. Una voz ominéfimos. ¿Creen que pueden escapar la verdad? We see you all. Jordan's corazón se sacudió. ¿Qué estaba pasando? ¿Quién te veía? La atmósfera corría con tensión, mientras el clima se sacudía seca. This wasn't finished. Not yet. The battle for truth was just beginning. And then, abruptly, the screen went black. This is where your part begins. It's time to act. You have to subscribe now so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories. What do you think happens next? Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Don't wait even a second longer to support the channel. True fans know how important this is. Your engagement makes all the difference.